What's up, everybody? This is Coach B, and welcome back to our second installment of Hops at Home. So, because I make a lot of exercise videos, the number one question that I get all the time is, all right, well, how many reps, how many sets? So today, before we get into the exercises, I want to go through how we're going to progress the reps with each of our exercises. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to break it into two categories. So we're going to have one set and rep scheme that we do for our GPP exercises, our general physical prep exercises, and then one progression that we do for our plyometric exercises. For our technical exercises, what we're going to do is, in those videos, I will specifically go over what reps we want to do because they don't kind of fit into the same mold and the same progression as the other exercises. All right? So first things first, GPP exercises. These are our strength exercises. These are our bodybuilding exercises. What they're going to use is a model that's going to escalate. So what they're going to work on is an 8-week cycle. However, there's an exception to that. Our first level of exercise, so that is going to be our squat, that is going to be our split squat, and that's going to be our hip hinge. All right, those three exercises, what we're going to do is a 4-week progression. All right, so what it's going to be is real simple. Week 1, we're going to do 3 sets of 8. Week 2, we're going to do 3 sets of 10. Week 3, we're going to do 3 sets of 12, and week 4, we're going to do 3 sets of 15. All right, so that is just for our level 1 exercise. That doesn't apply to anything else. Once you get into the regular exercise, what you're going to do is 3 sets of 8 on week 1, then 4 sets of 8 on week 2, then 3 sets of 10, then 4 sets of 10, then 3 sets of 12, 4 sets of 12, 3 sets of 15, 4 sets of 15. Once you've reached that 4 sets of 15, what you're going to do is you're going to drop back to 3 sets of 8 and start on the next progression of that exercise. So each exercise that we do is going to kind of have levels to it. So once you get to 4 sets of 15, you move up to level 2. Now, if an exercise gets really, really, really easy and you feel like you're doing really, really well at it, then it's okay to go ahead and loop back a little bit early, especially with some of the earlier exercises. Now, once you get into the more difficult exercises, what I would recommend is go all the way up, get all the 15 reps in, the 4 sets of 15, then drop down and repeat that exercise with some type of resistance. Because you can only go so far, you can only progress things so far body weight. So once you get to those higher level exercises, then it's time to really start finding some resistance. But by that time, you've done quite a few weeks, so you should be able to be in season or have access to something hopefully by then. But if not, I've got another video actually coming out probably sometime later this week. I'm going to put out a video on how to make your own weights at home for free. So you can use those resistance methods to progress those exercises. Now, for our plyometrics, we're going to actually go the other way. So for our plyometrics, what we're going to do is there is no level 1 exercises for our plyometrics. You're just jumping straight into your 8-week progression for that stuff. So it's going to be 3 sets of 8, then 4 sets of 8, then 3 sets of 5, then 4 sets of 5, then 3 sets of 3, 4 sets of 3, then 3 sets of 2, 4 sets of 2. All right, the reason that we're doing these differently is there's a concept called time under tension. This is what actually builds the muscle. The reps don't necessarily build the muscle, but higher reps will put you under tension for longer. So time under tension is going to be what we want for those GPP exercises. Those are the ones that are preparing your body, preparing your muscles to be able to get the best out of any speed and power work that you do later on down the road. So we want to increase that time under tension. That's why we go up in reps. Why we go down in reps in our plyometrics is, in order to increase your maximum power, you have to operate as near as possible to max power. Well, when the reps get too high, you can't keep operating at that high level. So we want to get lower and lower and lower and lower in those reps so that you can get closer and closer to getting a bunch of reps or getting all your reps at 100% of your maximum power output. So with the plyometrics, one small difference, like I said, there's not really a ton of progressions to your plyometrics. So you're not necessarily going to go up a level once you've gotten down to that 4 sets of 2. Once you get down to 4 sets of 2, you're going to go back to that 3 sets of 8, and we will likely add height or add bands or something like that to progress that. Now there are some exercises that you will progress, but as a whole, it's not quite the same as our GPP exercises where every single one of them has some type of progression to it. So, hope you got that down. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments. But for now, let's get into our first exercise. So in our GPP category, there's going to be 3 basic movement categories that we go through. First one is going to be the squat. Second one, we're going to call it the lunge, or our single leg movement pattern. And then our third is going to be the hinge. All right. So these are going to be the 3 main movement categories we go through. Today, we're going to talk about the squat because that is the most central pattern to jumping. It's going to have the most carryover, the most direct transfer. Now the squat, most times when I see people do their squat, especially if they haven't been trained before, younger kids, people who want to lift with a lot of ego, the first thing that happens is I watch it and we get something like this. That's not going to cut it. All right. Now, there's a time that we will half squat. There's a time that we will quarter squat, but that is on purpose. When I say squat, we are going for a full depth squat every single time unless otherwise stated. Why is that? It's extremely important to be able to execute a full depth squat. You don't always have to use it as the exercise that you choose, but you need to be able to do it. Same thing as in game. If you can't lay the ball up with both hands, that's a big problem. Now you may not ever have to get to that left hand if you're crafty enough, but you have to have it in your bag. Same thing, full depth squat, you have to have it because it's going to give you the ankle mobility you need to perform other things. It's going to give you the hip mobility you need to be able to play low, and it's going to give you bigger hamstrings. It's going to give you more glute recruitment. You have to be able to do it. All right. So for this, we're going to talk about kind of the first couple levels all in one, because you should progress fairly fast through this. So number one, what we're going to use is a surface. So this bench is roughly 16 to 18 inches. For most people, if you're probably above about 6'3" or so, this may be a decent-ish height for you. It may be a little bit high. I'm very short, so this is actually very high for me. So when we do this, all I want you to do first is to measure your surface. So all you have to do is just sit down. You don't have to do a perfect squat. Sit down and measure your surface. If you can, have a friend or take a video of yourself and try to put the camera so it's even with your hips, all right? You want to see the top of this kneecap actually be higher than where your hip crease is, right in here. As you can see with mine, my hip crease is much higher than the top of my kneecap, so this surface is too high for me to perform my squats. Now, if you really struggle and can't get to a surface that is low enough for this, then this will be fine. Go with the lowest surface that you can still execute the movement properly, which we'll go through how to in just a second. But for most people, what it's going to come up to is a basketball plus a few inches. So what I'm going to use today is just a couple things I have lying around my extremely messy garage. Got some plywood here. So this is a 2x4. This 2x4 should be roughly, most 2x4s aren't actually 2 inches. It's like 1.5 inches. So here's 1.5 inches. And you know, that actually might be good for now. Let's test that out. So I have my basketball on it, regulation size. This isn't anything special. And I'm just gonna sit down. All right, so now, turn this to the side. Now I see the top of my knee and my hip crease. So now my hip crease is much lower. All right, so this surface is actually probably gonna be slightly too low for me. So now I'll just pull out another block of wood. All right, and we'll see how that works out. So now we set up, the ball stays still this time, and voila. Top of the knee, slightly above. I draw a line, it's gonna come right about through here. So I'm about 1 inch below. So when I say below parallel, this is below parallel. This is not below parallel. This is, all right? So that is, now we've found our surface. So the reason that we're gonna use the surface behind us is because typically in a squat, what happens is most people, especially the taller you are, the worse this will happen. Is as you go to descend, the first thing that you'll do is bend your knees. You'll bend your knees and they'll start to travel forward, and then you'll try to drop your hips. But what happens with that is I can do a very low squat, but if I let my knees travel forward, this is where I get stuck, which is where you see a lot of people get stuck. So, let me move here so you can see a little bit better. So I let my knees travel forward and stuck. I can't go much deeper than that. I can probably push it to right here and my knees start hurting. So the reason that that is incorrect is I'm getting stuck because your ankle can only travel so far before we have to do this. My heels are off the ground. That is terrible. That's a great way to just completely make my knees feel horrible. And it's not gonna get much work done. My hamstrings are completely relaxed right now. I can jiggle them around, all right? So don't want relaxed hamstrings during a squat because a big part of why we do the squat is the hamstrings. Your hamstrings are your muscle that helps you to accelerate. That's your go pedal. So if you have no hamstrings, you're losing out on a lot more speed that you could be having in your arsenal. We all want that speed. So instead, when I want you to squat, the first thing I want you to be thinking about, which is why we have that surface behind us, is to sit back. So we're pushing the hips back just to start, and then now I can begin bending my knees. You'll see, look at my shin now versus when I let my knees unlock first. Look how far this angle is here. So that's a really tight angle, that's a hard angle to get to. But if I sit my hips back, I let my weight sit back, now I've got a much more open ankle here. This is much easier on my ankles. And also, now my hamstrings are flexed again, all right? So that's the first piece. So first piece, start with the hips sitting back. The second piece, I'll go from the front, is a lot of people have the tendency to squat with their kneecaps pointed straight forward. And I call this a sports squat because some coaches out there believe that this, will make it transfer better to sport because you play straight forward and back. Listen, we're trying to get you to have a good squat, all right? I'm not worried about that right now. We can get to a sports squat later, but we want a good squat. So for a lot of taller guys, it becomes really difficult for this not to become this, all right? When we do this, look at this angle here, all right? All my force is leaking everywhere. It's all crossed. I want that force driving straight up and down. Same thing when I jump. I don't want to jump from here because now I'm losing force. It's going all over the place. I want my jump to be vertical, I'm pressing up. Same thing with the squat. So what I want you to do is you can look at me, you look at my knees, all right? My feet are not going to shift. My feet are still staying where they are. They can be straight forward, they can be slightly outside, 45 degrees. That's not all that important right now. You have to find a foot position that's comfortable for you, but barely outside hip width. We don't want super wide feet with this. But as you notice, my feet are gonna stay still. I'm gonna rotate my knees out. See how now my kneecaps are pointing this way? All right, now, when I go to squat and I sit back, my glutes are extremely engaged now because your glutes, which you'll hear a lot of coaches talk about all the time, your glutes control both explosive movement up and down, explosive movement forward, but they also rotate your hips, all right? They rotate each individual leg in the hip joint. So when I did this and open up, now my glutes are turned on, all right? So now I'm gonna sit back, and it's sit back, knees turned out. So now when you look at it, so first example, knees forward, sit back. All right, we look at this angle here. That's pretty open, it's pretty nice, but some people don't have that ankle mobility. Some people barely can get their foot to pull up past even with the ground. I can get mine up here. That's good. That's what we want sometime. And squatting will help you to gain that ankle mobility. But if you're one of those unlucky dudes or dudettes who doesn't have that ankle mobility, you're gonna need something to make your shin even more vertical. So now, get my twist out of the knees, and now I sit back, and now look, it's almost dead vertical at the bottom of my squat. So that is a helpful tool. If you're taller, that is a very helpful tool for you to be able to get that depth and not have all kinds of knee issues and other stuff creeping up. All right, so cues that I'm looking for. Sit back, knees out, and then chest up is our last one. So if you have a logo on your chest, someone standing in front of you, I want them to be able to see it the whole time. So we got knees out, I'm gonna sit back, chest stays vertical, find the surface, then stand it up. All right, very, very simple. Knees out, sit back, chest stays vertical, find surface, stand up. Always find it. Find it, find it, find it, find it. Make yourself be disciplined and touch the surface every time early on because it's going to give you a better squat later. All right. So level one squat is going to be sitting and then standing. So knees back, sit, and then stand. You'll notice my hands go out in front of me. It actually makes it a little bit easier if you have some access to a very light weight. So I have my daughter's little weights here, 3 pounds, all right? Not much. And maybe you can, steal something out of your mom's workout stuff or whatever, but some light dumbbells, even up to 20, 30 pounds, it's still light enough that actually it's easier to do it with weight than without. And why? Because it gives you a counterbalance. So now, I turn those knees out, I sit back. This weight is now gonna help me to stay vertical as I sit back because it's giving me a counterbalance forward. And I can also adjust it to help me keep that balance as I go. I can let that drift away from me and get back to me. This is what we call a goblet hold. So this would be a goblet squat. All right. So going back to that, that would be your level one is sit, relax on the ball, then explode back up. We'll go right into level two because level two is where people are mostly going to end up at. Kind of level one, you'll probably be there just for a few reps to get the hang of it. Level two is where we're touching and then we're standing up. So with this one, I don't want you to actually relax on the ball. What I want you to imagine is as you descend and you touch that ball, only let the fabric of your clothes touch the ball. Now if you're super baggy like what I got on today, let the fabric of your underwear touch the ball because this is gonna let me be really, really high. So what we're doing is the same exact movement, knees turn out, hips sit back, chest stays vertical, and then as soon as I feel it, I'm barely just kissing the ball, and then I'm right up. All right, so that would be your level two, that would be your normal squat. For this, it's gonna be the same prescription as everything else that we've done and we discussed in the reps. 3 sets of 8 for the first week, then 4 sets of 8, 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10. Only exception is if you decide to just stay with that pause on the ball and you stay at level one, then go ahead and do 3 sets of 8 the first week, 3 sets of 10 the second, 12 and 15, and then move yourself on to level 2. But generally, you're probably going to be able to pretty much skip level 1 after you've gotten a few reps in and gotten comfortable with it and move straight to level 2. And we'll talk more about how to progress that squat later. So next time,